We're, going into the magical side of the Marvel universe and also exploring new dimensions. So it's very exciting in that sense.
You wonder what I see in your future? Possibility.
When I started on the film in September 2014, Scott Derrickson, the director, had already started to gather a lot of images and references from the comics and from films and photographs and painting. Charlie Wood, who's the production designer, came to LA as well, and we did a lot of brainstorming together with Scott and the people at Marvel to try and establish and define what the world of Doctor Strange would be. So it was a kind of an interpretation of what was on the page a long time ago and trying to make it fresh and new for today.
The Marvel films are produced initially as a 2D film, and then what we do is convert them in post-production into a 3D presentation. It's sort of turning the entire movie into a visual effect. Even shots that wouldn't have visual effects otherwise become a visual effect when you convert them into 3D. 3D is it's a whole sort of additional set of tools for storytelling, really. It's like taking a movie that's black and white and turning it into color. Now you're getting a chance as a viewer to see the movie the way that you would have experienced it in real life. It can be very immersive. One of the things we try to do with 3D is not just keep it deep all the time, because you sort of audience fatigues after a while. Compare it to like a musical score. But if you just played it loud constantly, it just becomes all the same. Whereas if you modulate, then people really feel those big moments, and then you give people a rest, and then you really feel another big moment.
What the?
3D is not a new art form. I mean, some of the earliest cinema was experimenting with 3D, and certainly in the 50s it had a big resurgence with this sort of gimmicky black and white 3D that was happening at the time. People kind of refer to that as 3D. And then in the 80s there was another sort of period of 3D where people were suddenly leveraging color and polarizers to be able to separate, so you didn't have the red and blue glasses anymore and all that. So every time there's this sort of technological advance when we go back to 3D. And this time around, the big change was really that we could leverage all the modern computing tools that we have available in making films to really make, and digital projection and everything else, to make it really clean and a much more pleasant viewing experience for the audience.
It was a chance to sort of like venture into places that we had never been, and that's what the multiverse gives us, right? Whether it's in the Magic Mystery Tour, in the Dark Dimension with Dormammu, or when we go into the Mirror Dimension or the Astral Plane, any of those different places, it was a chance to do something completely different than we had seen before, and yet believe that this was a journey of a superhero. We do a lot of things that are incredibly photoreal, and then we had to create them first and then completely tear them apart. So that was a fun part, to tear something apart in a way that you can still tell your story, that is visually stunning, that is a little bit dizzying, if you would, and yet people could follow the story in whichever dimension you're in, and it gives you a ride.
If you go out to any theater, you're going to see conceivably a very nice presentation in a very nice theater with leather seats and all that stuff, and that's great. But what they've done at IMAX is they've taken our movie and actually reprocessed it to actually reduce the noise, increase the sharpness, actually enhance the presentation on a shot-by-shot, artist-driven process. So we monitor that process and we work with them on it. So it's not something that's done in a vacuum. We're a part of it, and it's actually an extension of our process. We also do additional color grading here. So it's like taking the movie and just turning it up to 11 is really what we're doing.
Especially in a film like Doctor Strange, where we're exploring new dimensions, and we're really going big on like New York and Hong Kong, where it's like big scale sequences. I think having the extra size of the screen and the resolution and all the sound coming with it, I think is way more immersive for the audience.
I like the idea of being, it's almost like you're enveloped by the image. It allows you to sort of like, it's like the walls disappear and I'm in it. It doesn't get any bigger than that.
IMAX is delivering the biggest canvas that there is out there, so it's an opportunity for us to to tell this big epic story with magic and crazy stuff going on, and do it in a way that really does it justice. This is the way we intended to see it. And I always tell people to see it this way.
And we have about 60 minutes or more of the film that is in IMAX. And for these 60 minutes, we're going into a bigger format as well. You know, the film is formatted for 240, but for these special sequences, we're going to the full IMAX format, which is 1.9. And we've, you know, put extra care into adding some extra things, top and bottom of the frame, and making sure that there is more to the experience when you go to IMAX.
The idea was, what can we do for the story that will work for IMAX? Because we want to tell that story immersively, but we also didn't want to have this cryptic in and out, in and out, in and out of the different ratios. So we decided that the person that Doctor Strange was up to when he gets to Kathmandu in Nepal is one person, and the person that he becomes once he's there is a different person. It's different times of his journey. So what we decided to do was up to the arrival to Kathmandu is a 240, and once we get to Kathmandu, we opened it up as if you could see that he was growing and he was learning to be the best of who he could be.
When I was sitting for the first time in the IMAX theater, even for me, it was like, oh wow. It was like a total rediscovery of the film, which, you know, blew me away. Really, it did. And I was very, you know, moved by it.
Be careful which path you travel down, Strange. Stronger men than you have lost their way.
I've seen the movie a few times in traditional theaters versus the IMAX theater, and it's more immersive, it's more impactful, and you really feel like you're in the movie. So it's obviously the screen is very large and the presentation is excellent. Those are important things and they're great.
We're not doing it just because we can do it, we're just doing it because it brings something special to the film. The big example of that is there's a scene at the beginning of the film which is we call the Magic Mystery Tour, where Doctor Strange is pushed into all these dimensions by the Ancient One. And that's one of the first time in the film where we actually go to 1.9, and the experience is very different because you're traveling through all this space and all these dimensions, and it just, you know, it makes it bigger and more immersive, definitely.
It really feels like when it's like the shackles are released in a way, and you suddenly are just looking out into this infinite space. It's very exciting.
Because of the scale of the film and the scale of the magic in the film, I feel like IMAX is definitely the right format for it, because it gives us the extra space and the extra immersion for the audience to go into the film and really be taken by it.
Everything that is available to us, we use it. Everything that is perhaps available, we'll try it. And everything that is not available, we'll ask about it. We're those kind of people.
I've spent so many years peering through time, looking for you.
Independence Day Resurgence has been given a $200 million budget, $125 million more than Independence Day 1, which had a $75 million budget and had a box office result of more than $800 million, making it the highest grossing movie of 1996. Click here for more cool videos. Thanks for watching.